रेडियो जिंदगी 92.3 FM HD2 पे वेलकम लिसनर्स वेलकम टू द शाह पिराली लॉ शो ब्रॉट टू you by the Shah Pirali Law Group. We once again are joined by attorney Shah Pirali, who's the founder, president and managing attorney of the Shah Pirali Law Group, which is based headquartered right here in Newark. He is a member of the American Immigration Lawyers Association as well as the State Bar of California. He is a passionate advocate of human rights, civil rights, social action and social services, and he has a strong interest in and knowledge of the political and the legal system in the U.S. He formed his law group to work on the causes that he feels most ardently about. His law group focuses on immigration law with an emphasis on employment-based immigration, and he helps clients all over the U.S. So listeners, if you are in Newark, in San Francisco, or in Washington, D.C., the offices are in these places. So if you are in the, on the West Coast or on the East Coast, don't worry. They have their team to help you out right there. You can get in touch with them on their office number 510-742-5887. That's 510-742-5887. And the website is piralilaw.com. That's PEERALLYLAW.com. So let's get started. Let's see what Attorney Shah has in store for us today. Hi, Attorney Shah. Good morning.
Good morning, Ira. Good morning to all the listeners. Thank you so much for being here, as usual, and time punctual. And also, today we're going to talk about different topics, and of course, people will be able to call to ask any question when it comes to immigration. So we are going to talk about different things, and I'm going to talk a little bit about employment-based, the process. And I was hoping to have Sharif today, but unfortunately he's a little bit busy, so we're going to do that next week. So this week we're going to talk about everything from H-1B, I-140, visa bulletin, you name it, because we've been talking a lot about family petitions lately. So let's talk a little bit about employment-based, the options, because frankly right now it's a real confusion for a lot of people. And before I start, Ira, as usual, I'm just going to mention the disclaimer. Anything I'm going to tell you today is my opinion. You should not act or refrain to act solely on the information provided. You should contact an attorney if you have any questions. So,
before we even start, I would also like to, give out the phone numbers of the studio so that people can call if they have any questions. I should have mentioned that before, sorry. Listeners, you can call on the studio number if you have any question about immigration, about yourself or about somebody else who is facing an immigration issue or has a question or has a doubt and, needs to have more clarity. If you need second opinion, you can call the office number and speak to them. The studio number is 510-657-1170. That's the studio number right now, and we have Attorney Shah on air with us till 11 a.m. तो कोई भी आपको इमिग्रेशन का सवाल है, नंबर है यहाँ 510-657-1170. इस नंबर पे फोन करके आप कोई भी इमिग्रेशन का सवाल पूछ सकते हैं. कोई डाउट है या कुछ आप जानना चाहते हैं तो जरूर फोन कीजिए. और अगर आप चाहते हैं कि कुछ एक केस आप डिस्कस करना चाहते हैं, आप सेकंड ओपिनियन चाहते हैं, अपने आप कुछ प्राइवेट डिस्कशन करना चाहते हैं, तो ऑफिस नंबर पे फोन करके अपॉइंटमेंट ले सकते हैं इवन राइट नाउ एज वी स्पीक. 510-742-5887. Let's get started.
Yes, indeed, Ira. So today we're going to talk, of course, about immigration. Anything related to immigration, feel free to reach out. And as you know, right now the selections for H-1Bs are happening, and now they're calling on people to file for the H-1B. If you've been selected, then that means you're eligible to file for your H-1B. So please go ahead and do that. And if you need help, you can call us 510-742-5887. This is something that is kind of started a few years ago. Now we have the pre-selection instead of just sending the case and then hoping that you will get picked up. Now you do the selection, and then if you get through, then you go ahead and file the case of the H-1B. So the H-1B, once filed, it goes ahead and actually help on basically getting you in the U.S., and of course, which ultimately will probably lead to a green card when you file for the perm labor certification. As you know, the H-1B itself automatically doesn't give you the green card. So ultimately, they will have to file for your perm labor certification and then get the I-140 approved. And if you're from India, born in India, unfortunately, there's a waiting time, and that's where people keep watching on the visa bulletin. So for those who are now selected, feel free to reach out and talk to your lawyer if they're already kind of the company lawyer and get them to get moving on your cases. And then now there are things that are going to happen now. For one, it seems like we might have this issue of the higher wages and H-1B that might continue because it seems like Biden doesn't want to really remove that. Excuse me. And at the same time, we have all those issues happening on the travel restrictions in the U.S. and also the national interest exception. The national interest exception, as you know, is what is actually kind of these are the exceptions for those people who are actually applying based on the ban now with the COVID-19. So there's a huge list on that, but at the end of the day, you'll have to prove that you are of a national exception. Some cases pretty much are kind of straightforward, but some cases you'll have to kind of prove your case that you are eligible to come to the United States. Those who are basically kind of there are different kinds, right? So you have banned countries, you have those countries where you have to do the 14-day, et cetera. So I have not really kind of been working on those for clients because they have been doing it themselves. But of course, ultimately, you'll have a lot of people who are going to need help on those, preparing those, and we are looking into that, and hopefully we should be able to help you soon. But bottom line, you will need to get those. You need to meet the requirements to get basically the interview at the U.S. Embassy. Otherwise, they won't even call you for the interview. So you need to fall into those national interest exceptions, and otherwise you're going to be stuck. Any questions on that? I think you wanted to ask me some questions. Yeah, go ahead.
Since you're talking about national interest exception, there are categories which people fall in, but then of course, documentation is also important. Not just writing a letter that I fall into this category and this is what I do. It's not enough. There's a whole, list of things that they need to know about you, about the company, about the job profile, right? I mean, you need to present your case like any other immigration case. Even this is important.
Exactly. I have not really kind of thought about this until you probably brought this to my attention. And the truth is that, yes, not everybody qualifies automatically, unfortunately. And sometimes you have to really kind of dig into a little bit what they're doing to prove that this person is of national exception, national interest exception.
Interest exception, yes.
And, so there is a huge checklist, and then probably preparing a good letter explaining your situation will be helpful. And again, if people need help on that, we might be able to help soon. So we're looking into that. So in a couple of weeks, we should be able to help on that. Hopefully, this will not last long, but unfortunately, the way things are going, I don't know how things are doing in India. I've not really been following lately. But until things are going to get better, we're going to see this thing being more and more frequent. By the way, it's not only India. There's a bunch of other countries also fall into that. So if you are from one of those countries, you might need to check with us to get help. Or if you need help, we'll be glad to look into it soon. So having said that now the next thing is what happens if you have to go outside to get your visa stamp. For example, someone who is actually is out of status, file for an extension, and let's say they file it late. For example, let's say you're supposed to file an extension. The latest date was August 1st, but you file it on the 2nd or the 3rd. In such cases, I'll give an example. Let's say you have an H-1B. The H-1B goes to August 1st, but then your lawyer, for whatever reason, the case went on August 2nd. There's a chance what will happen, they won't give you an extension of status. They will give you an extension of what we call the H-1B, but there will be no I-94 on that. And one of the ways to deal with that is to leave the country and come back, get a stamp, and once the H-1B is approved, of course, the extension, you go ahead, you leave the country, and then after that, you go for your stamping, and after your stamping, you come back at the airport, they'll give you your new I-94. But the problem now is to get that appointment, right? And especially if you're from India, there might be a waiting time of almost 6 months sometimes.
Yeah.
Unless you fall into that category of national interest exception, you might be stuck for a long time. And what happens next is that if you get stuck, your company might not be willing to wait for you. And that's where things will get more complicated, because without the company, you don't get the H-1B, and without the H-1B, you cannot work for the company. So chicken and egg situation.
Exactly.
So it is important that people understand that it is very, very it's a considerable thing to. It's not considerable, I should say. It's imperative. That's the word. Imperative that you make sure that the company is filing your H-1B extension or even a transfer on time, so that you don't fall into that category of going outside. Now, let's say you know for a fact that you're filing late. What can you do? There are a few options. Number one, if you had filed something else, you can claim what we call the bridge. For example, let's say you lost your job and you're reaching close to your 60 days grace period, and no job is coming. What you can do, you can go ahead and file a B1, B2 visa, for example, just to hold on to. But the B1, B2 will not be approved, which means you're going to be in pending situation. Let's say 1 month later, while the B1, B2 is pending, you got a job offer under H-1B, and you will be glad to move to H-1B. What can you do? In this case, there's a big chance the H-1B will be converted, will have to be filed as a consular processing, which means after approval, you need to go to your home country to get a stamp and come back. And this is where all the problem is starting, because you are in a situation where you basically know for a fact that you cannot go to your home country. If you go there, you'll be stuck there, right? Especially if you're from India. Now, what do you do next? Well, before you even try to go outside, what you can do, you can try to do something else. You can request what we call a bridge, based on that situation of having the pending B1, B2, or the visitor visa, as we call it, and ultimately also find a way to pretty much kind of ask for the government to do what we call also, in some situation, a non-proton, an NPT. A non-proton, it's kind of a funny word, but it's a Latin word. Non-proton means basically standing on your own. So what you're basically asking the USCIS is, hey, I know I'm out of status, but I need you to basically make an exception, because we are in an exceptional situation. I cannot go back to India, so I want you to revive that status for me, or use a bridge. And what will happen when you file it, you have to claim it. And there is a chance it works, there's a chance it fails also. So there's no guarantee it will work 100%, but there's a chance it will work or not work. But what will happen, USCIS, what they will do, they will probably convert the case. Either they will approve it with an extension of status, which means you get an I-94, or ultimately they will themselves convert the case into what we call a consular processing. And when they convert the case into a consular processing case, this means you have to go outside the country and get a stamping. Now the question, do you have to go to your home country to get the stamping? The answer depends on your situation. If it is a new H-1B and you didn't graduate from the United States, you will have to go to India if you're born in India, because they have to do the security check and all this stuff. That's the reason they put that.
Right.
Now, what happens if it is an extension, for example? In this case, then you might be able to go to a third-party country like, for example, Canada, Mexico, and etc. But this is a problem. Canada is not opening up unless you have a PR of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the U.S. Embassy will not take your case. And number two, Mexico rarely takes H-1Bs. Even before the COVID, they rarely do it. It's very, very hard to get an appointment for that. So now you might have to find another third-party country, for example, Europe, or the Caribbean and stuff like that. These are possibilities, but it's another headache to do. So the best is probably to go back to India and get the stamping and come back. Now, of course, the biggest issue that you're going to see is we don't have a date. And that's why it's important to give it a shot when you're filing your H-1B, to use either the MPT, non-proton, or actually use a bridge. So this is how it works. Unfortunately, that's where we are now with all the situation. Any question on that, Ara?
No, it's really a great discussion, great pointers that you're giving. You don't have a date, and also the main concern right now probably is that even if you go to India to get your stamping done, how or if or when do you come back? Because especially with the third wave or the fourth wave, however you count it, being predicted in the few coming months, I really don't know how this is going to play out.
Exactly, and that's the big question mark everybody's having, because we were hoping now with the vaccine people are going to get out of it, but unfortunately it seems the vaccine doesn't work for many of those variants. And I'm not an expert, but we are in this for a long haul, so don't expect things to be fixed. And if you don't have to go to India, I repeat it, you don't have to travel, don't travel, because a lot of people want to go for vacation or this reason or that, and many of them I know are getting stuck. No matter how much we make an effort to bring them back, we are not seeing a possibility of bringing them back. And that's where things get really worse, because you are stuck in India and you might lose your job unless your job allows you to work remotely. And then if you can work remotely, you might not get the visa appointment for the visa because you don't fall into the category of national interest exception. So chicken and egg situation everywhere, and unfortunately I don't have a clear answer for everybody what you should do. So that's why I recommend people to give us a call if they have a situation and they want us to analyze, 510-742-5887, and then I can go ahead and assess the situation and tell you what is best for you.
Absolutely.
So, any callers?
We were getting a call, and I think their call got dropped. So I'd like to remind them that if you still have a question, if you would still like to speak to Attorney Shah, listeners, you can call right away, 510-657-1170. That's 510-657-1170. That's the studio number. Or you can also call the office number to make an appointment for a consultation for discussing your case. The number to call is 510-742-5887. That's the office number, जिस पे आप अभी भी phone करके बात कर सकते हैं. But right now, if you want to ask one question about your case, about any question, anything, that you can call 510-657-1170. Let's continue.
Thank you, Ara. Thank you for giving the number. And just to let people know that many people tell me, I missed the show today, so you can listen online on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Shah-Pirali-Law. And I try to upload as much as possible because usually I do the uploading myself, so I'm not very good at it sometimes. So just to be able to control the shows that were uploaded or not, so I like to do it myself. But unfortunately, I'm not an expert in that, so I try my best to upload it as much as possible. And hopefully also I'm going to start short videos like I used to do. I've been neglecting that because a lot of times people really rely on those, because I pretty much give quick answers on questions, and not only questions, but frequently happening situations. Not frequently asked questions, but usually frequently happening events.
We have a caller. Let's see what they'd like to ask you. Hello, you're on air with Attorney Shah-Pirali.
Hi, Mr. Shah. I had a quick question. You just now mentioned about the bridge and the non-prompter kind of approach. Now, would you be able to kindly tell us, like how much of a time does the B1, B2 take to process? So is it like 30, 60 days? So that way, it would be more of the time period that I would be able to get if I was in a similar situation.
Oh, that's a good question.
In between jobs.
Yes, indeed. It's not taking 2 months, and fortunately or unfortunately, it's taking more than that. It seems like they're just holding all those B1, B2. They're not even. Some of them are getting denied or approved, but they're just holding them. So at least 3 months you have in your hand, based on the current situation. You might have more or less, plus minus 3-4 months. But in the meantime, that at least while the B1, B2 is pending, you fall into a category of period of authorized stay, which allows you to stay while you can look for a job. But yes, it's taking 3-4 months, and I think it will be shortened soon. And that is good news and bad news at the same time. It's good news because once it gets approved, you don't have to use a bridge. You can just move from B1, B2 to back to H1B. But if it is pending, then you have to use a bridge. So, but if it is denied, then you're stuck. So, yeah, it's taking like between 3 to 4 months actually.
And Mr. Shah, just a follow-up question, if I may. The transfer
Sure.
of H1 to B1, B2, and then B1, B2 back to H1, would it have any impact on a pending green card case?
No, it doesn't have an impact on the green card, but it can have an impact on the B1, B2 itself if you have a pending green card. So it's the other way around. So the B1, B2 can be a hurdle for the green card can be a hurdle for the B1, B2 because it has an immigrant intent that is an underlying immigrant intent there. So no, it doesn't affect your green card, but the green card can affect the ability to get the B1, B2.
So nothing in the interview side, though. Okay. Yeah, thank you. I got my answer, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'll call in your
Thank
office
you so much.
if I need this.
Okay,
Thank
sure.
you.
Call the office if you need help. 510-742-5887. Thank you so much. This was a very interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
We have another caller?
No, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So, yeah, that was a very interesting question because a lot of people are kind of worried what will happen. Will it affect their green card to file the B1, B2? It doesn't affect the green card, like I mentioned, but it will ultimately affect what we call your B1, B2 will be affected by the filing of if the green card is pending. But ultimately, with the situation of COVID, just tell the truth, there's a big chance they won't really kind of give a hard time because at the end of the day, what are people going to do? They're stuck here, right? If they go, they get stuck there.
Exactly.
So hopefully that's something that you might consider. But it doesn't seem Biden is making a lot of effort when it comes to that, although he has asked the State Department to move a little bit faster on those cases. But at the same time, like I said, faster can cut both ways. It can be an advantage or a disadvantage. So it is left to be seen how things are going to unfold in the next few months. But also, as you mentioned, we don't know if we are reaching fourth or fifth wave. God knows. I spoke to some friends from Israel. They're saying where they kind of had an iron shield with the Pfizer vaccine and everything. Most people are vaccinated. It seems like a lot of people are now still getting sick, and I don't know if people are dying. So that means this thing is very tough, and I don't know how long it's going to last, but we need to be ready for the next 4 or 5 years, I think.
Okay.
So be ready and have your stuff ready because we will continue living, those who are lucky to make it, but at the same time, the fear will be there and the situation will be there, so we will have to kind of adjust to all this in the near future. And I don't know how much the vaccine will help. Yes, Ira.
Tanisha, when this last caller was talking about change of status to B1, B2, and then going back to H1, so just, focusing on the change of status to B1, B2, what would be some of the do's and don'ts of that one?
Well, for one, when you're filing the change of status to B1, B2, number one, you have to be in status when you do it, or in a grace period. That's rule number one. Number two, when you're filing, you have to prove two things. You have to prove, number one, that there's a good reason you want the extension, and you also have to prove you have an intent to leave. And that's where many people on H-1B tend to kind of get in trouble because they know they won't leave, and plus they probably have a green card pending, which makes things a lot harder on them. But at the same time, it seems like the government is looking more at the hardship of leaving rather than looking at the reasons you're going to go back. So hopefully they will accept those cases, and they do accept, in fact. Most of the cases I've filed did get approved, and ultimately now the question is, what is next? How many times you can do this, right? That's another big question. You can do 1B, 1B2. It will go probably maximum for 6 months. And what happens now if you're reaching 6 months and you don't get an answer on the B1, B2? And that's where I tell people you got to file a second one. So it is important that people kind of understand the whole dynamic of this, and they actually kind of know how to file it properly. Now, when you're filing the B1, B2, you also have to prove that you have maintained status. Either you are in status, or ultimately you have you're in status, or basically you're in a grace period. So if you don't prove that, then you cannot file the B1, B2, because you can file then under what we call a non-proton. That's what I was mentioning earlier. Non-proton. I keep mispronouncing that. And then you need to do this because without that, the NPT, and you are out of status, they're not going to revive your status. So you need to be careful how you file it and how you do things, because any mistake will cost you. And the problem with the B1, B2, if it gets denied, the date goes back to the original date.
Okay.
It doesn't kind of give you that. For example, let's say you file an H-1B, right? Extension. The H-1B extension get denied. It's on the day of the denial that you start accruing unlawful presence. But with the B1, B2, if it gets denied, the dates will go back to the last I-94. And that's the part which is very, very tricky. Although you can always claim, hey, I had a pending case, so I was in a period of authorized stay, so I should not be punished for that time. But bottom line, this is how it works, and it has always worked this way. Now, going back to the B1, B2, let's say someone come to the United States already under B1, B2, and they're filing an extension, right? They file it while the extension is pending, they're safe, but the day the extension gets denied, it goes back to the old date. And that's another headache that a lot of people have to deal with. So, bottom line, I recommend people that they actually kind of make sure that that they have all their paperwork ready, and sometimes people always kind of forget to explain why they need this B1, B2 extension. And that's where we can come in and help you. We can handle the case for you if you need help. And you can call us. We can handle those extensions for you. Any question in that?
No, that's absolutely, that's kind of clear. And also, if there's, if you just, if you've applied for a B1, B2 and you haven't heard from USCIS, and how, let's say you really, because if you apply once, it's about for 6 months, because B1, B2 can be for 6 months at a stretch, and then if you don't hear from them, and if you apply for a renewal, is that recommended without any basis as such, just because you haven't heard from them and you probably, the work here isn't done or whatever reason? Can you still extend without really taking any risks?
Well, that's the thing. If you file another extension on an extension, you're piggy riding on a pending extension. So if in case it gets denied, you're talking about
it's risky
a lot
business.
more
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So
All right.
it is a situation where basically you have to make a choice, right? And the choice, unfortunately, is it's hard to make just like that. That's why basically people talk to me and say, you know what, hey, I'm going to do this, so what do you recommend? And that's based on the situation, I guide them what they need to do next. But at the end of the day, they need to make sure that they are making the right decision. For example, if you don't have to stay, then better go back. But at the same time, a lot of people are worried if they go back, they might never come back here. And there's no real magic, how do you put it? There's no magical, I cannot really pull magic and tell you, okay, in your case, it will be good to do that or that, but I can actually kind of assess what are your chances, unfortunately. Fortunately, but at the same time, you need to really make the decision on your side, if the risk is worth it. Right now with the COVID, I think it's a lot of, probably the risk is worth it because we are basically kind of in a sanitary kind of situation, and life is more important than a green card or anything else. So traveling might be risky for you because if you travel, you might end up by having to deal with I'll give an example. I had someone who's traveling and transiting on India. He's from another country, and then he got COVID while transiting.
Okay.
And he came back to the U.S., and I think they put him and he's a U.S. citizen, right? So he was placed, I don't know what happened to him after that because I was talking to the brother, but this is a situation that is happening. So traveling, even on a transit, you have a chance of catching COVID. And I'm not an expert again, but I've seen it. So is it worth it to travel, or is it worth it to take a chance and just stay and file the B1, B2? I personally recommend people to, personally I recommend not to travel unless it's an emergency or you don't have a choice. If everything is done, you don't have a choice, make sure you don't overstay more than 180 days. That's another rule. The rule of 180 days is very, very important because what happens, let's say you fall out of status and you keep staying, right? So it is important then that you basically kind of have a situation where it is important actually to make sure that you make a right decision, to be honest, first of all.
True.
And then, any questions?
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I kind of lost the trend in the middle. I was trying to find out an example to give you, but I'll talk more about it. But bottom line, if you have to file for the B1, B2, make sure you talk to an attorney who understands what's happening and what are your chances, because traveling is dangerous, but at the same time, staying in the country. Yeah, I was talking about the 180 days. Right? So the 180 days rule is attached to the 3-year bar. So if you overstay more than 180 days, when you leave to go for your stamping, you will not be able to get it for almost for 3 years. You'll be stuck no matter what kind. So it is very, very very interesting how the 180 days is also counted. So, for example, let's say you file for an H-1B extension, and the H-1B is pending for a few months, and then suddenly it gets denied. The 180 days will start from that date. Okay.
From the date of denied?
Date of the denial.
Okay.
Yes. So, in this case, is that if the date of denial, let's say, is January 1st, for example, so 180 days will bring it to around around May 31st or something like that. So if in case you get a denial and you're not able to file anything, I recommend that you leave the country before the 180 days expires. Otherwise, when you go for stamping, you are going to have a problem. And just to let people know, the 180 days is not a grace period. What it is, the 180 days is just what we call a forgiven time. I call it a forgiven time. They'll forgive you as long as you don't pass it. And now, if you pass 180 days, you reach 365 days, and you still overstay or equal to 365 days, you will be barred for 10 years to come back to the United States.
Okay.
There are ways to come back. You have to get what we call a waiver, but waivers are hard to get. So I am recommending that you count your days properly. Don't make mistakes on that, because in order to get forgiven on those overstay, it is important then that you pretty much you count your days. Nobody's going to count that for you. So talk to a lawyer, or you can call our office. Well, we are lawyers too, so we can actually guide you on what to do next. So please give us a call if you have any questions. The questions 510-742-5887. Anything to add on that?
No. There was another call that caller was holding on. I think their line got dropped. But listener, if you're still there, if you'd like to call, just call us right back on the same number 510-657-1170. एंड बाकी लिसनर्स को भी याद दिला दूं कि कोई भी सवाल अगर आपके पास में है इमिग्रेशन को लेके, आप कॉल कर सकते हैं 510-657-1170. Call on this number and ask your immigration question. Otherwise, if you want to get in touch with Attorney Shapir Ali and his team for a detailed discussion or for consultation, you can call on the office number and make an appointment 510-742-5887. That's 510-742-5887. Get more information about their areas of practice on their website, piralilaw.com. That's PEERALLYLAW.com. That's piralilaw.com. So, Atanisha, any particular news which has been, you did mention that President Biden is not really making efforts on the immigration front. So what else is going on?
Well, the thing with Biden right now is that we have to understand he doesn't have to make effort. He just had to bring it back to the Obama era. And that's another problem too, but he's trying his best, I think, although I'm not very, very happy the way things are going, and listening to Kamala last time really got me disappointed. But at the same time, we are, unfortunately, in really kind of weird times, right? So they have to go against a group that are pretty much blaming everything on immigrants, as usual. So I highly recommend that you pretty much just try to find your options. Okay, because a lot of people count on only H-1Bs, but H-1Bs are just few of the type of. So it is just one. We have O-1 visa, we have EB-1s, we have national interest waivers, we have other kinds of visas available. You don't have to rely only on H-1B or L-1 visas. You name it, it is important then that you basically kind of do an assessment yourself and don't just sit down and hope that things are going to get done for you. So you need to really kind of move a little bit and do you. And also I just wanted to warn people, don't just go do research on forums and then come back and say, oh, I saw it on forum and that's what it is. And I get a lot of arguments with people. Sometimes they get good stuff. I'm not going to deny that. But most of the time they get wrong because the person who wrote it is probably not a lawyer. And the thing is that they usually, sometimes they give half-truth because they misunderstood themselves. For example, it used to be like people think that, oh, I have an I-140, after 180 days, I can transfer my case to, to another company, the same I-140. But it doesn't work this way unless you fall into AC-21 Section 104C, if I'm not mistaken, where you basically have an adjustment of status attached to it. You cannot move the entire case to another company. So if you move to another company, they have to start your labor certification and then your I-140. Then they can use only the priority date. And a lot of people got confused on that part. And I had people calling me and say, no, I saw it on the forum and they said that. But no, that's not what well, that person probably said that because he himself or she herself didn't understand what she was writing or he was writing. So it is imperative that you talk to someone who's now calling your friend to get the answer is okay because he's your friend or she's your friend, but that will not give you expert advice because one of my clients told me one thing last time. He said the reason I always call you for all those cases is because when I ask you for one question, you will look into other options for me. You won't just limit yourself to that one answer. And that's the whole situation. That's the whole reason people call me because I look for solutions. I don't just kind of answer your question. You ask me, can I get an H-1B today? I say no. I can do that, right? But that's not the answer. I say no, but you can get an O1 or maybe you can revive an old H-1B. Maybe since you have the 1 year, we can do an L1. Or where were you born? Oh, I was born in so-and-so country, but I have a citizenship of another country. Then we can look into E2 visas. Or we can look into on-country chargeability, right? It is cross-chargeability, not cross-country, but cross-chargeability. So all those things have to be assessed. And for example, someone called me one time for an F1 visa. He was very desperate. Things were going bad for him, the F1 because he was not doing well in school, so they cut off his service. Mm-hmm. And then he told me, I don't know if I have mentioned that one time, and then he said, oh, I have bad luck. Yesterday I was attacked by some people. Not yesterday, last week I was attacked at gunpoint, and now I lost my money and everything. And then I said, hold on a second. You got attacked. There was a police report. He said, yes. I said, go and get the police report. And we got the police report. And when we got the police report, I saw that he was entitled to a U visa.
Oh, okay.
So we filed a U visa. And at that time, U visa was going pretty fast. Within 6 months, he got his U visa. And ultimately, he got his green card. And I think now he's probably a citizen. So, and that's the kind of things that unless you basically kind of look into all the angles, you cannot answer someone just a yes or no. That's what happens on the radio. I can answer you just quickly the specific question you ask, but if you do a consultation with me, I will assess the whole situation in a different angle. So that's why on the radio you get informational stuff, but on a consultation you get legal advice. Totally different things. But at the same time, I try my best to give as much information as possible whenever someone asks me a question. But still sometimes you might miss some stuff. But you need to look into everything possible because just looking at only one thing from one angle, you're not going to basically get through all the time. And that's where experience and knowledge becomes very valuable because not only I use my own experience, I also use the experience of others. When I'm talking to clients, what has happened to them, it becomes kind of a whole thing that I include in my database when I'm answering you or giving you my answers. And that's what is important about how I answer people. And they always ask me that, but that's the way I do it, and I've done it for years this way. Do we have a caller? I cannot hear the line or something.
No. I'd like to remind everybody that we have about 9 more minutes to go. So if you have any questions, you can call right now and ask your question. Right now would be the best time to call and speak to Attorney Shapir Ali to ask one question about your immigration case or immigration doubt. 510-657-1170. 510-657-1170. And the direct number for Attorney Shah and his team is 510-742-5887. That's the office number, so call them up on the office number for appointments. 510-742-5887. 5887. The website is piralilaw.com. Listeners, also do check out their YouTube page, YouTube channel. Like Attorney Shah always says, if there's anything that you missed on this show or anything that you wanted to note down or write down, any pointers, you can always go back to the YouTube channel and, listen to those shows again, listen to the whole conversation again and what Attorney Shah has discussed over here. Attorney Shah, do you also want to take some time out and talk about the petition that you're working on?
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to talk about. As you know, a lot of people now, we were talking about U visa, but we are talking also about H4. While the H4 now have the EAD, those people who actually kind of having marriage issues are kind of stuck, because since people are dependent on the H4 visa holders are dependents, what happens to those who are what I mean is those people who pretty much kind of having their marriage kind of falling apart, unfortunately, then what do? They are stuck here, and once they get divorced, they pretty much lose their H4. And for people who are abused, we have been able to look into the U visa if there are physical abuse, but then people who just kind of marriage didn't work out, they've been abused, but mostly emotionally, then they don't have anything. They can get an EAD ultimately, but they won't get a status, and they usually have to move to student visa or something like that. So what we're doing with this petition, Ira, we're trying to petition the government to change that law to give some kind of recognition or some kind of protection to people who are on H-1Bs, and ultimately they can move forward with their life until they get something more permanent for them. So please sign this petition. It's very important, because that petition is what is going to be the hopefully helping and saving those people who are pretty much kind of going through all this. And my hope is that we find a way that those people can stay in the United States and ultimately get a chance to do something with their lives. Because right now they're kind of stuck. If they go back to India, for example, they unfortunately might not really have any kind of chances of coming back, or ultimately they might even suffer going back, because a lot of people, when they go back after getting divorced and things like that, it's not really easy for them. But in the U.S., they have a lot more opportunities. So the H-4 visa protection, I'm hoping if we are able to change the law, we might be able to actually kind of save many people from this huge headache. Well, not only a headache, but a life-changing situation. And if people sign it, please sign it. It's help the H-4 visa holders. And I think, Ira, you have it on your wall or something, right?
I do. I have it on my Facebook page as well. Yes, RJ Ira.
Exactly.
It's right there.
And you can search on change.org and type my name. You will have some good petitions there. So please share it and have people sign it. We need more signatures to be able to actually call upon the government to do something. If they don't see enough signatures, they won't even consider the case. So please help us. Help people who are basically, it can be your brother, your sister, your daughter. People can be affected by this. And we need to help them, at least to have some kind of protection. And some of them also have child custody situations, and they need to stay here in the U.S. to be able to fight their cases so that they don't lose their children, right? Mm-hmm. And many of the children are U.S. citizens. So what happens to them if they don't have a protection, they cannot stay, the judge might side against them in actually getting something for them. So because they might see, hey, you are not stable enough to ultimately give a chance to those kids, so they won't get the kids. And that's another sad situation, and we are seeing it a lot. And so please sign this petition. We need your help. and more people we get to sign this, more we will have a chance to protect those people who are basically falling out of status because they are getting divorced, or they have been abused, or they have lost their spouses or something like that. So we need to basically kind of find, and then you will see, help the H4 abused spouses to maintain legal status in the United States. It's on change.org. Please sign the petition. I urge you to do that, and hopefully we will be able to make a change on this law, just like we did on the H4 EAD. So anything to add on that? I think you have a lot of things you want to add. Right? Tell me.
Now, I always just say that, there are so many people around us who go through this situation, and, there's so much at stake. So more people than we know, I would say, suffer because of this problem, because of these laws and stuff. So we should do everything we can to make it possible for them also to not uproot their lives again and make all those changes they already did once when they moved here after uprooting their life back in India, back wherever, not just in India, wherever they've been.
Exactly.
And after coming here, if they have to do it again, just because things didn't work out in their marriage doesn't mean that their entire life has to be changed all over again, because they are the ones who have to start from scratch. So let's do whatever we can. Let's file this petition. Let's circulate it as much as we can. Let's share it with our friends. Have as much signatures as we can on this, so that this petition that Attorney Shapir Ali is working on is a success. It sees light of the day, and I don't know if many of you know. I think almost everybody knows probably by now that he is, Attorney Shapir Ali has been a very, very prominent prominent voice in enabling the H4 EAD, the EAD of the work permit for H4 spouses. So congratulations on that one. After all these years. And also good luck for the this next petition.
Thank you so much.
Attorney Shah, we are 1.5 minutes away. We are
Thank you for, yeah.
No,
I
please
just
go
wanted
ahead.
to say special thanks to you for supporting the move. When I asked you to help, you were really kind of really taking it very seriously, and I need more people to really get involved. It doesn't matter you are affected by it or not. Remember, this is a human right issues, women's right, human rights, you name it, immigrants' rights. So please kindly help us sign the petition. And just to wrap up now, I think we have 1 more minute, right? So
We do.
Ira, I'll just go ahead and talk a little bit about the visa bulletin, because that's another question I'm getting.
Okay.
What do we expect to happen? Well, we should watch in the next 2 months. We will get a better idea where the visa bulletin stands. It seems so far it's moving forward, and we might see a jump up to 2016, but after that, I think it will start retrogressing. That's kind of my take. And again, this is anything I'm telling you today is my opinion. You should not act or refrain to act solely on the information provided. You should contact an attorney if you have any questions. Thank you so much, Ira, for helping me and for supporting us on this move. I really applaud that. So if you need any help, give us a call, 510-742-5887.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Attorney Shah, for being here with us. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. You can now call the office number 510-742-5887. Attorney Shapir Ali joins us here every Wednesday between 10 a.m. to about 11 a.m. So those 50 minutes, you can get more information about piralilaw.com. Stay tuned to Radio Zindagi.